So I was just talking with my friend about the future of the economy in terms of what happens in a world where everyone's getting UBI, and what does the economy look like, and what does scarcity look like. So in this post-work world, what are things going to look like? I believe that some people will choose to continue to work because their identity is so attached to what they do, and maybe they really truly enjoy the value that they bring. And I think that some people will choose to work because it will supplement income on top of that, whatever that UBI ends up being, and it becomes the chance to live a more comfortable life with investments and that kind of thing. It's kind of a strange economic paradigm that is being proposed here, because if everyone's receiving X $1,000 per month or whatever, what incentives exist for landlords to not charge more, or for there still to be a housing shortage if everyone who owns homes or apartment owners decide to increase rents? So that's a question that's popping up for me. And you're also not going to lose scarcity. So there will still be scarce assets. There's only so many homes that you can build on the California beachfronts. There's only so many homes that you can build in Aspen. So there will still be scarcity. There will still be value that humans can provide. HVAC, electricians, plumbers, but also human-facing jobs, counselors, tour guides, that kind of thing. So there's always going to be value in being a fellow human being. People are always going to be looking for that connection. There will be other jobs that you don't really care if it was done by a human, like an Amazon factory robot. There's going to be this new mix of AI and robotics in the economy that's taking up a larger and larger chunk of the GDP and of the productivity. But basically, everything that's been spreadsheets and emails, completely done, completely burned away. So, and that's a huge chunk of white collar work, and that's a huge chunk of the economy. So you kind of actually have this weird paradigm shift and power shift back to human-based labor, boots on the ground. My hope is that that labor is better recognized for the value it does provide and better compensated. So we know that inflation has not kept up with the value of this work that's done. You would have been able to do this boots on the ground work to own a home and be able to provide for a family of four on a single income decades ago. That's no longer the case with these jobs, but my hope is that we re-enter an era where that work is recognized for the value it provides and compensated properly. So in this UBI economy, you're going to have some people who are spending the money better than others. So people who are choosing to invest that money, who have the luxury, quote unquote, to invest that money. The idea with UBI would hopefully be that it's enough to live on, but what incentive structures and rules would be put in place for that to actually play out on the private side of the economy? Because the public-facing side is just that small fraction of the government that will be giving the money out, but it's not going to be necessarily packaged with rent controls and people have to charge this much for this. It could be even more inflationary, that everything else goes up in price to the point where it's still not enough. And then they'll have to jack up the UBI even more and then the prices go up even higher. So what is the end game? That's why it feels like an incomplete answer, because it is. Regardless of how that plays out, I think if you use your UBI on scarcity in some way, that will be the correct play, because scarcity will always exist with things that we apply value to, like gold and Pokemon cards and real estate. There will always be a limited amount of that. So basically what I'm saying is, stay in your mom's basement with that UBI, invest it in Charizards, PSA 10, PSA 9's fine, and things will work out. It's kind of an incomplete answer in terms of what the economy will actually look like, or how it plays out in the real estate game, with landlords knowing that they could charge more, and likely will, knowing that everyone's receiving X amount of thousands. So the other question is, what happens to all these displaced white-collar workers who are receiving this UBI? It's just a mess, man. It's just a complete mess. And it's obviously going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but I'm personally not holding my breath, and I don't think it's a good strategy for you to hold your breath about UBI. I think what we need to do is be proactive in our life and work on the projects that are calling to us, whether that's art or entrepreneurship. I think it's a better play to bet on yourself than it is to bet on the government figuring everything out perfectly, because it totally has a good track record of doing that. And the private sector as well, obviously. So betting your future on the decisions of these oligarchs is not a fantastic idea, in my opinion. I think it's good for you to pursue what's been calling to you on a spiritual level, and on a financial and money level of, do I need to stay at this job for now, or do I need to start this business that's been calling to me? There's likely an answer that's within your gut. So I would listen to that, because, betting on the government and the private sector to figure out UBI properly, it is possible that they do figure it out, and it somehow miraculously works in everybody's favor. That is possible, and we can hold that as a possibility. In the meantime, before that happens, instead of just sulking about it, let's take action in our life. And that can just be on a spiritual level, that can be on a job level, or a business level, or an art level. There's something calling to you to do. So I would pursue that versus just twiddling your thumbs waiting for UBI.